Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid, a podcast that explores the glorious mess of building your own business with the people doing it. I'm your host and fellow business builder, Kim Curtin. Thank you for being here. Let's get into some good, honest, small business chat. There's something in this podcast episode, listener, that hits such a chord for me. It's the part where my guest, the brilliant Kim James from Tangerine, Tango, and I talk about how the advice given to us from those at the top of their game misses the mark so excruciatingly that you're so often left with that "what is the point" feeling. Just like Taylor Swift giving new musicians advice, as Kim says, it just can't hit the mark because the context is too different. And those giving the advice, rarely realize how unhelpful they actually are. This is why on this show, Unemployed and Afraid, you hear from people just about to get started, a year in, many years in, and at all other stages, not just those shouting back from the finish line. That is how you get perspective. That, hearing from people maybe not too far in front of you that you can learn from, is how you get the perspective you really need to be able to see yourself in the story of others and keep working, knowing that wherever you're at is entirely normal. It really hits that beautiful trigger, and it is such an honor to put that together for you in this show. I wish I had it 5 years ago, and I'm so grateful to you for listening and to the guests who helped me do it, like Kim, who is an absolute legend of a human, and I had a very hard time not letting this chat go on for many hours. You'll hear more about what she does shortly, but I want to ask one thing from you in this episode. If it helps you, if you have those, yes, aha moments, please text it to a friend who might also find it helpful. Because business building insights this supportive should never be gatekept, firstly, but I know you'll also feel me in wanting more people, ourselves included, to move through the journey of creating something for themselves with less pain and more self-belief. We really do all deserve that. So let's get into this episode where you're going to hear all about letting redundancy push you before you're ready, evolving your business structure as you go, what blowing up on the socials actually looks like, some banging content advice, the process, the sometimes painful process of getting to clarity, mastering the art of multiple businesses, and why getting real about money is very, very sexy. I'm here with Kim James, KJ, founder of Tangerine, Tango, where she helps founders and marketers stop being scrolled past and start being sought after, creating content strategy for memorable brands. Through her signature 4Cs framework, she helps founders and marketing teams connect with the 95% of customers who aren't ready to buy today, but will need them tomorrow. Because you can't push customers down a funnel, but you can become unforgettable. When she's not helping brands build lasting memory, you'll find her running the Career Girl Diaries across the socials, putting into action all the content good vibes. Definitely check her out over there. Or you'll find her speaking on stages. And boy, have we caught KJ at an awesome time. You're going to know the time. And if you don't know the time yet, you will soon, where you've been getting really messy with 2 feet into your entrepreneurial instincts and have learnt so much about the process and about yourself along the way that clarity finally feels like it's within reach, and it's very exciting. And we get to hear all about that journey right now with Kim, with a great name, obviously. Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to be chatting with you today about this because genuinely this time that you're experiencing right now in your business, which is so brave and so exciting. I know how juicy it feels and how exciting it is. So I'm so excited to get into it with you. But before we do, I want to know about your best friend and I want to know how they might describe you.
Oh, my friends actually describe me as the momager. So you can't see it in the background of where I am now, but I have a framed picture of Kris Jenner. And that is because my friends call me the momager. So it used to be above my desk of my workstation. But yeah, I'm the mum. I'm the one that Friendsmas is my Super Bowl. That I'm the type A friend that I will never be nonchalant. I've always been as chalant as possible. But I say to people, you will never be late to the airport. You will never be hungry. And I will always be that one that has the Excel spreadsheet on every single trip. So yeah, the momager, KJ.
That is outstanding. I mean, I think everybody deserves a friend like that. So, and the people that aren't that friend are probably going, "Oh God, I really need to be a better friend." It sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's good being the type A person to everyone else that's a bit more type B, but yeah, love a good control freakness of me.
So, what brought you to Tangerine Tango, which is a fantastic name and a fantastic brand that I'm sure we're going to chat a little bit more about how you got there. But who were you before all this? What brought you to this journey?
I was a corporate girly. So I grew up on a macadamia farm. My parents are farmers up in northern New South Wales. But I always wanted the city life. I always dreamt of being a marketing girly, working in the city, having the fits. It absolutely did not start that way. I started in Parramatta in plumbing, selling toilets when I was actually started at Reese Plumbing back in the day. But I had been in corporate for years. And I think I was always kind of that person that would say to my parents, one day I'm going to work for myself. I just don't know what that is yet. And I really went out, found myself, put myself into opportunities where I had growth in my career and my development. But the more that I moved up the chain, I could start to see that I wasn't going to get fulfilled unless I was making the decisions and I was writing my own vision. I got to a point where I was bringing to life other people's businesses and where they wanted it to get to, but it wasn't my own. Then, yeah, the last role I was in corporate, I was head of business value, then went into a role of chief customer officer, worked with the leadership team, the business strategy, the marketing strategy, set up entire departments and got to a point where I thought, you know what? I can't keep doing someone else's vision. Like, I need to do it for myself. And I think I've always been someone that struggled with that itch scratching the back of your mind, being like, is this it? And yeah, kind of stability scares me, to be honest. And yeah, so I got to a point where I was like, if it's not now, I'm never going to do it. And I thought that the more comfortable I became in my life, the more resistant I would be to taking potentially 3 to 4 steps back to then take 10 steps forward. And yeah, it needed to be last year. I mean, look, not the best economic environment to do it in, but I was like, you know what? If I can do it in this economic environment, I'll just be even better when it gets better.
Oh, very relatable for somebody who left their great corporate job in January 2020. So
Yes.
very understandable. The gutsy thing that takes you to that edge, and then the oh gosh reality is quite the journey in and of itself. So, did you have a plan for what you were going to do as your own thing when you took that leap?
I had a plan, but also had a lot of naivety, which looking back, there's definitely things that I'm like, wow, I wish I could have done some things different, but also don't live with regrets. It worked out the way that it did. I had been in big corporate and then I had been in small business well, we work with huge clients, but not like a business of 800 people for the 2 years before that. That really kind of shaped me to see how to run a business. What I had started to build was essentially what I wanted as a marketer, and I saw that as an opportunity. And I went, you know what, this is going to start. And I'm just going to have to like throw my finger in and just go, okay, this is how it's going to work. But yeah, definitely nowhere near as much as what I could have had. But I think if I knew everything, I probably wouldn't have taken as much of a leap.
Damn straight naivety is one of our most important assets in the early doors. So tell me about the structure of your business. Was it called Tangerine Tango when you got started? What sort of services were you thinking of offering when you stepped out?
Oh, what it is now is completely different to what it was last year. Like, I think the structure and the vision and probably the purpose is aligned, but where I've gotten to, there is so much simplicity. Sorry, strength and simplicity is what I really say now. So, Tangerine Tango actually started because in 2022, I was made redundant. So, I was in the big tech industry and we had layoffs. When we had layoffs, I wanted to work for myself, but I was not ready yet. I couldn't see that way to there. I'd only been in, as I said, like 800 plus businesses. So seeing our small business, I just didn't have those skills yet and the backing behind myself. I back then wanted to work for myself, and the word Tangerine Tango kind of, I looked at my fruit bowl one day, saw an orange, and the words came in my head. I want to say it was more glamorous than that, but that's how it works. And Tangerine Tango is color. So when I Googled it, it was the Pantone color of the year a few years ago. And it is the vibrance of red with the warmth of yellow. And it really means leadership and partnership. I was like, wow, that's how I want people to feel when working with me. So when I first started the business, I actually wanted to help big businesses bring content marketing back in-house. So I'd been in content marketing for the past 10 years and I'd worked both in-house and in agency. And a lot of what I could start to see is we're getting to this part where we have phenomenal in-house marketers who are very much generalist roles, But content marketing is becoming something so specialized that businesses are losing an essence of who they are in their brand by outsourcing it to someone else. But social media is where 81% of Australians are at any given day. It is the future of search engines, it is the future of communities. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to create a done with you approach that will help businesses bring content marketing back in house. The problem that I struck last year was trying to sell to big businesses that have long sales cycles at the beginning. And then I'd made this career thing and I had no idea what to do with what I'd created because I am very much someone that will never preach what I haven't practiced. So everyone started asking about TikTok, and this was in 2023. So I was like, okay, well, I need to be on TikTok because I can't tell someone how to do something without having done it myself. So I purely just went to TikTok to learn it, learn the platform. And my whole team at the time were Gen Z, and they were like, you give really good career advice. I was like, great. So I just posted literally the topics that I'd said to young people as videos, and it went wild. Like it went straight away gangbusters. And I was like, okay, I'm onto something. But then I was at these crossroads where I'm trying to build an agency or a new model with me working with people. And then I had this career thing that people are like, so are you a career coach? Can you help with my resume? And I was like, no, like I want to do this business thing. So then I tried to combine the two into Tangerine Tango last year. I had offers for businesses and offers for individuals on their personal brand. And it was messy because I absolutely work with clients. We had phenomenal results, but how I could get there was that I had these two different things that really necessarily could have been in one. And yeah, I think I kind of took a lot of the wrong career advice of people saying you can't do too many things at once when realistically you can do multiple things as long as they have a direction. So yeah, now I've streamlined it back into being how to work with me one to one. Because what I saw was that on the business level, I could actually work with people that were individuals, founders, and marketers, and actually bring to them the structure that I would have brought in the past to huge Australian brands that I had worked with. So yeah, that was a bit of a roundabout of where I am now to where I started. Too much, too many things. You know, I was looking at step 10 instead of looking at step one.
I think it's quite a natural thing for entrepreneurs to also look at anything that is a hobby that's gaining traction or interest. A piece of market research that is building a community on TikTok or putting videos out, just seeing what kind of response it is. We're like, great, how do I monetize this? What's happening? How does this build into the bigger picture, the bigger narrative? I think that's such a normal process for so many people who are entrepreneurial. And it's such an important part of the process as well, because, how do you know what is right for you unless you try the things that aren't right for you and muddle your way through them? I've got lots of questions for you naturally. It's my job. But I want to break down, I guess, two things as a little bit separately, because I do agree with you that it is terrible advice to tell people that they just have to focus on one thing and go hard. I read a book once called Essentialism that I actually love as well, which is completely contradictory to that thing that I just said, which is, when you've got a circle and you've got 18 different arrows coming off the circle trying to head up, they're only going to move at 1% each. But when you've got one circle with one arrow, you're really pushing forward with that. And I really responded to that book at the time and went, yeah, I just need to do less. But then as soon as I started focusing on less, I felt terribly uninspired and felt like everything had just slowed down to the point of like no return. So lots of things that I agree with what you're saying there. And going back to breaking it down to two things: Career Girl Diaries. Really interested in this because I think a lot of people who maybe haven't stretched their entrepreneurial muscles yet and want to are going to go into the content creation space or, dip a toe in somewhere, be it TikTok, be it IG, podcasting, YouTube, like whatever. A lot of people are going into that. Tell me what specifically blowing up looked like for you on TikTok. Like what happened? What was the response? What was coming through to you?
It was the day I will always remember it. So I will say, I had a few videos go a bit viral before then I went consistently viral. And that's the thing. It's like you start posting and you start building a bit of a presence, but then you then go, okay, well, hang on. I had this viral moment. That's not necessarily what I want to be known for. The first viral one I had was 2 years ago when Arnott's released a Tiny Teddy cereal and I'm gluten free. And I posted about it. Anyway, they hadn't done like a full launch yet. So I kind of like launched it before it was launched. Anyway, and it went everywhere. It was in the media. They sent me this big, beautiful like gift basket to be like, thank you for sending this viral. But what had happened was It was so funny the way that it went viral because I had been in Sydney for work and I had filmed just like a TikTok that it took me 15 seconds to film. And I had filmed it one other day, 3 months prior, randomly out of nowhere. And it was all about imposter syndrome. And it was all about how women feel lucky. And it was like, you're not just lucky, you're actually really fucking good at your job. And you didn't get here just because of luck. You put the work in and you got yourself there. Anyway, that sat in my drafts for 3 months. I came back from Sydney. I'd been up and back. Back then, I was doing fly in, fly out a lot. And I was like, oh, I can't be on camera today. Went through my drafts, found it, posted it, and it had like 300,000 views within the first day. And I was like, oh, oh, we're going broad. And that's where I was like, oh, I struck something. And I think that what people started to say to me was they could see themselves into it. It was what people really needed to hear is imposter syndrome. So then from that, then I started having more thoughts about, okay, well, instead of just having all these random things, then how can I be known for career kind of things? And then I started having conversations of honestly everything that I wish I knew in my 20s. A lot of it was about leadership, about management, about your resume and all those kind of pieces. And it just kind of crafted. I think a key thing was that I didn't even really know what a personal brand was back then, but I was building it. And it was all based off my own personal storytelling. But you can't know how to create content that people connect to until you know who your audience is. And because I had been a career girly in my 20s that had gone through the stages and now could look back with relevance, but also very timely that I was, a few years older than someone, not if you are someone that was, how they say that you should never ask the person that's like the best in their industry because they're too far removed from what it was like when they started. It was like that. It'd be like if you ask like Taylor Swift how to start now. It's a very different world. So a lot of people are like, oh my God, I completely relate to this and wanted to hear it. But yeah, that's kind of how it all started there. And then I took it to Instagram only last year and it blew up to 15,000 followers within like 3 months. And I was like, oh shit, I'm onto something. But then I got worried because I think entrepreneurs, anyone that is a founder of anything and wants to build something, you're constantly thinking, okay, well, like, what is this? How does this all work? I'm doing all these different things at once. And I honestly overthought it so much last year. I overthought everything that I was doing. And I just didn't really have that level of clarity that now when I look back at it and I thought, right now, the Career Goal Diaries is potentially the business that will overtake Tangerine Tango in due time. Maybe it will. It is something that is growing and I'm really enjoying the process of not monetizing it. And I know that sounds so wild, but the Career Girl Diaries is actually now what's bringing clients to work with me because they're looking at what I do. They go, wow, you know how to make content, you know how to build an audience, you know how to connect with people. And it literally has turned me in the case study for people to work with me. So instead of only having a Tangerine Tango, a profile teaching people how to build a following by building a following, telling people how to build a following, like those kind of MLM style right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's that natural way that I can actually have those conversations and people follow me there. And I'm enjoying it. I enjoy learning new styles. For example, right now, it just grew like another 4,000 in the last few months from carousels, carousels on Instagram. And there's like one post that I have and it's a static post. Oh my gosh, I'll tell you because it's wild. Like a static post that everyone said, oh no, you can't grow with static. Like everything has to be video. Right now it is at 683,000 views. It's a static post, just static. It's at 98% non-followers. It's got 13,000 likes. I posted it on the 13th of December at 2:00 in the afternoon, probably having lunch. So I can now bring so much more real-time life examples to my business. And I think that, as you said, like with founders, we're so much like, what do we need to monetize straight away? Not everything needs to be monetized because you might find, I'm going to let this thing grow and just see where it goes. But how can I get the learnings from that to do better in other parts that I'm monetizing?
I just think that piece of advice, whether it's directly or indirectly, and I'll explain the indirectly part, is so important for all of us to take in mind. It is a process. It's an incredibly overused word, but it is a journey. It is like just try something, see where it goes, learn some shit from it, and then try something else. I have often said of late across multiple platforms that if I had my time over again, and I was sitting, at that role that I had and, feeling the itch, throwing the baby out in the bathwater, it's a horrible term, just taking the leap into the unknown and then deciding, how am I going to build something? What's going to come next for me? I would never do that again, because you can absolutely create things for fun. You can create things on the side. You can, I think creating content almost diminishes the art of the thing. You're creating videos for people that talk about a specific topic. You just happen to be doing that on TikTok and Instagram. You can start a podcast about a topic you're really interested in. It doesn't have to go anywhere. It doesn't have to be the biggest thing, but it might lead you to the next thing that leads you to the next thing, that brings you right back full circle, perhaps. So, I think no matter what somebody takes from that reduction of pressure of, you have to know it, you have to do it, you have to monetize everything straight away, or it has to blow up or go viral straight away. Like, none of that actually matters. Just start doing a thing. Side note, I was like cautious when I was telling you. I was like, I want to chat with you so much about stuff that works in content as well. But I was like, don't do too much of that, because it's interesting to some, not interesting to others. But I found what you just said there about the static post so very interesting. Abby Chatfield, who I adore. I just think she is a cultural moment for a certain generation. And I love how she's just herself. But I saw her doing a bit of a rant on the socials about trying to go to a business's profile and learn about the business. A case in point, a new cafe or a restaurant where you just want to go look at a freaking burger or a pizza and see what kind of food that they're delivering to you, but all they've got on their social page is bloody reels and video after video of like customers enjoying things and following that advice that we've all heard for such a long time, that video is the way, reels are the way. Like, you have to show interaction with product, experience, all that sort of stuff. Sometimes people just want a good old-fashioned static post to like read something, understand something, share something, or just get some insight, like some actual insight into the project they're looking at. So I find that so hilarious that a simple static post did so well for you.
Oh, and I actually work with restaurant clients. So a lot of opportunities, because a lot in Tangerine Tango, it's actually about building memorable brands. And restaurants is one of the main ones for that, because the data shows that only 5% of your audience is ready to buy at any given time, but 95% will be if they remember you. So when I work with restaurants, a lot of it is trying to get top of funnel content, right? That kind of flows into people's why. Like, for example, there was a gluten-free Mexican rooftop restaurant that opened in Melbourne. I could tell you, I've probably sent that 45 times by friends of mine that are not gluten-free, that have sent it to me being like, we need to go. And I just love that they called it a gluten-free Mexican restaurant, because like I would say 80% of a Mexican restaurant is gluten-free because it's corn, but I love it. But then exactly that. So with my like restaurant clients, we also need those middle of funnel where like people are like, what does the food look like? What's the atmosphere? Like, the details, the meat of it. Like, not everything needs to be a reel. And this is where I get so excited about the different formats of content that we do have, and, that cross promotion of content, which I won't go into right now because otherwise that's a whole other world of itself. But because, yeah, it's more ways that you can tell a story. Not everything needs to be video. I love video content, but yeah, there is many more opportunities the better that these algorithms get with having interest based, instead of just like, you need to be following someone to see it.
I love that. And yeah, we are so often as business owners grappling for the right piece of advice when it comes to building an audience across anything and how to bring them into a sales funnel. We're so often looking for like, what's the thing that's going to help me? What's the thing that's going to help me? But what I took from what you just shared there is just think about it, post something, test things, see how it works for you, think strategically, think, how do I need to bring people in? Okay, so what's going to be interesting for them? Think in that way. So, I took a lot out of what you just said then. I'm sure the listener did too. Let's pivot, #pivot, over a little bit to your service offering in Tangerine Tango. So as you talked about upfront, you started to develop some different service offerings that kind of brought things together, but now you're getting a little bit more clarity through that act of trying, which is so important to go through that act of trying first. Where's the clarity sort of sitting now for you versus where it was? How are you approaching service offering, and what is it teaching you?
Absolutely. And I think I'm very honest to talk about how it was messy last year, because you need it to be messy before it's strategic. Whether that's a business, whether that's posting, whatever you're doing, you will learn more from taking messy action than taking no action and trying to make it strategic. But that doesn't sell a course. That doesn't sell a guide. That doesn't sell, sign up to my newsletter to get those things, whereas realistically, most people let it be messy and then they had strategic clarity. So where the difference was last year was I actually had businesses and individuals separate, but the individuals I work with had phenomenal businesses and opportunities. So I actually have taken how I would work with large brands and divided that into being something that could work for a large brand, also a founder, a lawyer, an osteopath, like whatever service that you're in. I do this with my restaurant clients. So when we have a look at content marketing, everyone starts at step 3 because step 3 is the sexy one. That's where you think, okay, this hook is going to save my business. If I do this one type of video, it's going to blow me up. No, because platforms change. Exactly what we're seeing. I literally wrote about this on LinkedIn today with the potential TikTok looming TikTok ban. A platform first strategy is the wrong answer. Where people get lost and they have clarity in what to post and how to stay consistent is because they haven't done step 1 and 2. So all businesses and whoever I work with, I have a 4Cs framework. This is something that I built off working last year with clients and what they needed, and also like background of being with in-house and agency. So the 4Cs: 1, clarity. Who are you? What is your brand? What do you stand for? What differentiates you? What are your opinions in the industry? All of those key pieces. I've been in agency where we've done beautiful big brand strategies, 6 months, $25,000, $50,000 pieces of work. But I'm like, that's great. How do I make that sustainable for if they're like, I'm a founder of this new startup, or I am a lawyer, for example? So step 1, we do your brand. Step 2, knowing your audience. You can't create content that people connect, consume, binge, see themselves in until you know your audience really, really deeply. So it's not just like, oh, they are females aged 25 to 35. It is actually creating content personas. And so, sorry, audience personas. So for example, like my restaurant client, we have about 4 different ones in that. They are different ages. They come into the restaurant for different reasons. We can then target our content and know which platforms we're speaking to which different audiences. So when they see that, they go, oh my God, that's me. They send it to their friends. We need to come in because it absolutely hits the right people. Then what we do, now that we have running ads, we actually see who engages. So one of our type of ads is heavily over indexing in over 50s. So then when we have a look at, we're like, wow, that is our older audience. We need to make sure that that persona is really targeting to that person, whereas we might have had a different view that it was this other audience over here. And it just means that that messaging is so spot on that now their click-through rate is like a 9 to 11%, where industry standard is like 2 to 5. So that second part is the most important. Then 3 is what we get into, which is consume, which is where a lot of people start. But if you hadn't done the previous 2, you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to post, or you post for a week and then you drop off. That is, how do you make content that is really consumable, whether or not that is across the right platforms, the right formats. We get into all of that. And not only of me saying, oh, you should do this thing, I work with people on it. I am very much that if you teach a man how to fish, they have more fish. So for example, one of my clients, again, restaurant, we've been working together for about 4 months, but throughout that, they would send me a reel and they would go, how can this be better? I'm like, tighten that, change the words to this. Have you got a different picture of this? After time, they make reels that are now getting 500,000 views organically themselves. They're not outsourcing that to be made to someone else. And so when we get to that stage, it's actually the content creation little tips that they now feel like they know how to make content. You can see that it gets so excited within themselves. Then the fourth part is convert, because as I said, only 5% of your audience is ready to buy at any given time. But if you target people when they're ready to buy, you're actually behind. So what I say to people is, say you're going on a holiday and you need to buy a new suitcase. You ask people, what are you thinking? Everyone will have 2 to 3 brands in their head. You either have 2 to 3 brands or you have 2 to 3 websites where you're going to go and search onto that. So if you're not in that consideration set, they are going to go look at those and they might purchase, and then your ads hit them. You're too late. So how do you again service the 95% and the 5%? And that's having a really awesome content funnel so we're hitting people at all the right times, because you can't push people down the funnel, but you can catch them as they fall. And because of having that view, we don't have a platform only strategy, because I was in Facebook where we had 17% engagement rates, where entire brands were built there. Now it's a pay to play market. And now everyone's saying the same about like Google ads and everything as well. So by having that very good view and knowing who you are and a diverse platform strategy, if something like a TikTok ban happens, you're going, okay, cool, we're in all these other places. Here's how we're going to navigate. Because with content and social, you can always guarantee on 2 things. 1, change will always happen. 2, there will always be trolls. Like, you can try and avoid them. You can be the nicest person on the internet. There will always be trolls. So that's where I kind of work with those clients in it. And sometimes I'll have someone that go, they have a really great brand. We actually don't need as much of that. That's great. It means that we're ticking off that part and we go heavily into the next. But it's like we're cooking or more like we're baking and we're doing a recipe. You have to do those key steps first so that you get the perfect cake. And yeah, it's something that I work with people on. So they get access to myself, we meet regularly, and that's where I feel that it is a really sustainable model instead of doing it for you because they get to actually learn themselves and improve their abilities. And so when it comes to, potentially cutting marketing budgets and outsourcing, this is where it's a really great opportunity for those businesses. And then they might go, you know what, we've got the right strategy and now we need someone to do video editing. Go for it. You will give them a better brief. You will make a better video because you know exactly who you are, who your audience is, where it's going. So when you get that editing support, it's just a no-brainer.
I think the person listening at the moment's probably just heard that and gone, particularly listener, if you're a business owner and, already up and running is going, awesome. Like that makes a lot of sense to me, and I'm sure that makes a lot of sense to listener too, to go like how unreal, like, approach to content marketing. And we take so much away from hearing incredible things like that from you, which is just amazing. There's another side I want to offer to the listener and to me as well. Like, hearing you talk so eloquently about the approach for clients and essentially the structure of your services and how you work with people, hearing that so eloquently from you, the business owners who are just like, fuck, how do I get from like, I want to start a business where I'm servicing clients and working in content media to, really amazing services and really clear offerings and a clear process, which is what you just so well articulated is, a clear process. That messy stage of setting that up, of getting to the stage where you can eloquently explain what you deliver for clients. Talk me through the process of getting to that really clear, beautiful solution that you offer. What did you do in terms of, a process to kind of map that out? How did it feel for you to be doing that? What was going on for you through that phase?
100%. And that's the thing, like, I'm a year into making up this thing. You know what I mean? I started working for myself. So I left my corporate job in May. I launched the business in August last year. And I think a lot of people have said to me, like, wow, you're really quick. I was like, yeah, I'm very self aware, which benefit, act very quickly. But negative is that there's a lot going on. Like, there's a lot of overthinking. So what I did is when I started to go and work with people, I thought about what I wanted. So when we have a look at the best businesses, it's the founder market fit. So then I was like, okay, how can I work with people that brings my background and my knowledge? So I always knew that there was this element in the industry of needing that resourcing of that, like done with you, bring it into businesses. So first I had my idea and I identified what background I had to be able to get into there. Then I sense checked that with other marketers and others in the industry. And it was a huge success. A lot of people were like, oh my gosh, yes, that's exactly what we need. I was like, great. Then I started to test it. So it was really funny. The restaurant clients that I work with now, who we work with ongoing, they call me like Kim on call, and they're like, don't go anywhere. So I actually work with them for free to start because I needed to test this. And I was like, I'm happy to work with this for someone because I need to get as much information. Is it simple? Is it not? Am I confusing? I did that with them for free. So once we did the strategy part, they were like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. Like, don't go anywhere. So I think you need to have your idea, you need to validate it, and then you need to constantly identify, okay, where is it getting messy? So in that messy period, I started working with businesses on that scale. And then I started working with individuals on their personal brand. Where I found that there was correlations is that all the individuals I work with were business owners. So when we were working on their personal brand, that was also their business. So then I started to see where I was having crossovers between the two. So that's where I was able to then go, okay, how do I make this seamless into one and have one really great offer that works across different ones? On the flip side of that, I came from big corporate. Right now, marketing budgets are significantly cut, but learning and development budgets significantly increase because staff retention is one of the most costly expenses to a business. 98% of businesses are worried about staff retention and improving opportunities for their staff to stay where they are now. So then I went, okay, hang on. Well, if I've got this one-to-one offering, but I know that I'm having these conversations with big businesses on training, which I love. Again, I would say in that messy part, what are things that you absolutely love? For me, it's workshops, it's training. I love being in front of a room and doing those. I could do it every single day if my voice and my exhaustion would allow me to. So then I started having conversations with decision makers on a corporate level but I use that messaging. So then I was able to speak to them. They're like, yes, how did you know? It's like, you've gotten out a meeting with me. Yes, we are worried about losing our best marketing people because they're going to other businesses, because we need to upskill them here and open up those opportunities for the people that we have. So that's where I started to go, okay, well, hang on, maybe that's a persona. Maybe this one-to-one is a persona. And then I went, all right, well, there can be two offerings in the businesses, but they're then very different, sales groups. But honestly, you just have to take action and let it be messy. Like, I know that Anna McKenzie talks a lot about this as well, about like the architect versus the archaeologist. Architects can build, archaeologists have to kind of dig and get through. I would say majority of people are the archaeologists. Like, you have to start and then identify where you're hitting roadblocks. For me, it was that one, people couldn't work with me until they understood their brand. So then when I had people and I was like, okay, let's do your content. And then the biggest roadblock was that their brand wasn't ready. Then I was like, well, hang on. I've been in an agency. I've worked on brands. I've launched brand. I have a brand of my own. I have two brands. Well, why don't I bring brand? Because it was actually the 3Cs format. And then I was like, well, hang on. Why don't I just bring the brand part in? And we do that. That removes whole roadblock. I was like, great. And then, so then I just started kind of iterating and working with people, and it will probably continue to update and evolve over time. But I wouldn't have gotten anywhere until I worked with people and identified where those, synergies were, but also roadblocks, because, that's probably the extent of it.
I think that's really important to share and really important for us to talk about more often, because we live in a world where, and we know this in our practical minds, we see everybody's end goals. By the time somebody on LinkedIn is experiencing your really great sell of a service offering that you've had 5 or 6 iterations of that same service offering. As you explained, you've done them for free. They haven't gone, perfect. You've seen opportunity to grow it in a certain area or dial down a certain area and redo it. And so, you go to start your own thing and you look at everybody else's end goals and just go, gosh, like, I have to know what that is right now before I get out there and promote it. I think there's a real sticky point for a lot of us where also, if we go to market, quote unquote, go to market, start trying to enter into sales processes with different businesses, and we're selling a certain service offering, and then we see ourselves having to sell another service offering. We think about the we were before, and we sort of talk ourselves out of that a little bit. I have certainly experienced this myself, where I'm like, this is the service I'm offering. This is how I'm going out, and doing it, and it goes well and things happen, but then it sparks a new idea. Or one person gives me a really valuable piece of feedback and says, hey, have you thought about maybe splitting that into 2 things? Might be a little bit more attainable that way. And I go, oh, new service offering, go to market, and I think that is something that more people need to look at and be honest about when they're sharing their business story. And as a listener and as a person who's investing in their own entrepreneurial potential, needs to remember that just go to market with whatever you got. Just put something out there and then give it a go, and then try it, and offer it up to people for free, and see the process that takes you on and get you there. So I think that's a really important share for anybody entering a service-based offering, which is, it's not like product. Like, you can't just throw a sticky product out there and go, hey, is this going to sell? Because you've invested in it. Service, we can and we should iterate often and not worry about it muddying the waters of our own messaging along the way, and just like getting into it.
Oh, 100%. And I think something that I actually had a conversation with another business owner. We actually met through TikTok, and he also talks about careers. And I really value his opinion because he has 3 businesses. I was like, wow, you can do multiple things at once. I was listening to Grace Beverly's podcast last year, Working Hard, Hardly Working, and she had Jen Atkin, who is the hairdresser to the stars, has multiple businesses now. And she was like building her first business, and she talks about how Kris Jenner said to her, it's only your first business. Like, your first business isn't your forever business. And I started to think that is exactly what I say to people in their career. You don't start in your perfect job. I started in plumbing, and then I was quoting toilets. So people see me now, that, oh my God, you work in social. No, I didn't start there. So I feel like I very much for myself, and say to anyone else in starting a business, the clock starts again when you start your own business, because your first business isn't your forever business, but your first business teaches you business. It is an MBA on steroids. You don't know how to do invoices. You know how to do email marketing. You know how to negotiate pitches, sales, anything. Your first business teaches you business, just like your first job teaches you soft skills. It teaches you negotiation. It teaches you working with others. It teaches you how to write an email. So I think that there's such an element where if you're someone that's very passionate, and you're right, we look at the people that are at step 10 and they've got the community, they've got the book, they've got the podcast, all these things. It's so easy to like think, okay, I'm doing this, but then it can turn into 10 different things. The hardest part is making it like smaller and actually kind of controlling your brain to go, not yet. That prioritization comes when you get really clear on what the thing is. And I didn't have that last year. So right now, if anyone looks at the Career Girl Diaries, you'd be like, wow, she's not posting right now. No, because I put myself on a bit of a ban for the month of January. Because in March, I'm on stage 5 times. I have 5 speaking arrangements for in masterclasses and conferences. So I was like, I need to just give a lot of love and attention right now to Tangerine Tango. Great opportunity, great conversations, and I'm in such an exciting part for that. I'm still posting on like stories and on Instagram a bit here and there, but then when that is like an absolute well-oiled machine, I will give it back to the other. When I was trying to grow the two at the same time, it was messy, but realistically, you can ebb and flow. Like I'm not building the Career Girl Diaries to be something that's a once off. And when you do post on TikTok, the first time you go viral, you think, oh my God, this is amazing. And you get validation from the views. Views, followings, engagements don't pay the bills. They don't pay invoices. I've been very lucky to have opportunities from TikTok, paid brand deals, partnerships, all those things ongoing. I have some long-term ones there as well. But right now I have to then be a lot smarter with my prioritization because you don't get more hours in the day. If anything, when you work for yourself, you have to be a lot more clear with your time. So when I look at things and go, oh my God, I could do this, I go, hang on, where is that on the priority list? And you know who actually I use to sense check my priorities? ChatGPT with Claude. Claude has all of my goals that I want to hit. And I will be like, what about this? And it will be like, no, you are not allowed to do that yet. You're doing this other thing. And I'm like, you're right.
I love that you've called him Claude. That's really funny. It's amazing the relationship that we start to develop with ChatGPT and just the things that they say to us when we ask those questions. Really, really valuable advice. You've given me a little bit of a hook there that I can't help but talk about. Content, virality, all of that stuff, not paying the bills. Talk me through paying the bills. How have you been managing your finances through this experimental and growth phases, and how has that felt for you?
I think one of the like absolute, there's 2 things that I wish we talk about more. And I think that people are starting to now. Oop, I just got all of the balloons
I
pop up.
don't know why we have balloons in this video. Just that alone makes me want to release this as a video podcast. We have balloons happening. This isn't Zoom. This is
No,
Riverside. I don't know what is happening, but
I don't know what that
amazing.
meant.
Send up the balloons for the money talk. Yes.
2 things people don't start talking up about. One, you do not turn a business on and get $10,000 months unless you bought
Mhm.
someone else's sales cycle. So I spoke to a few people that made, you know, the $100,000 straight away and all this in their business. They learned coaching from people that do coaching to then teach people how to do coaching about coaching. That's not, that'll make you quick money fast. Anything that's quick money fast, too good to be true, not long-term sustainable. You don't turn a business on and you get 10K months. It is not like a salary where you have money come in all the time. Some months will have big months, some months will have low months. Last month for me, biggest month I've had. January, quiet. I work with a lot of restaurants. They're shut. Like, you know what I mean? The other thing is I was very smart with my money before I started working with myself. This was not a rash decision. During the pandemic, was someone that was very lucky to have a job. Yes, I lived in Melbourne, so we were in a, you know, the lockdown part of it. But I actually started doing shares. I remember I spoke to this like company that helped managing my shares. They're like, why do you want to do this? I was like, because I'm living well under my means and I need to stop buying shoes. They were like, great, love this for you. So I was very smart with my business and I was very smart with my money. The other thing, which so many people don't talk about, is I dramatically decreased the cost of running me. I knew exactly how much it cost to run me, and I made that as like simplistic as possible. I really then had to realize I'm going to have to take 5 steps backwards to take a huge leap forward. And I don't think enough people talk about that. It's just you turn on this business and next thing you're buying designer, you're buying a new car and you're flying business class. Absolutely not. Last year, I didn't buy any other clothes other than a new pair of Crocs. I spent majority of the year wearing leggings and I was in my house. And so I dramatically knew exactly how much it cost to run me. I had enough money in the bank to be able to hold myself through this because there's either 2 ways to go about it. I think if you're in an opportunity where you can get a part-time job and then build something with it, phenomenal. I think that that would have been such a good way. But I think mentally for me, I'd put myself in a financial position that I could fund myself for 6 months without working through being smart and having like a very like low cost of running my lifestyle. But if I had the opposite opportunity, I would have loved to have had something part time and then work to build it for 2 days a week. But yeah, so when I first started it, I also had brand deals that was coming through from TikTok as well that I was doing of content creation, which a lot of my friends joked, being like, "You're now just a full time influencer," and I was like, "Look, something's got to pay the bills. Let's be real." And then yes, so then I started to reach out to my immediate network, but you can't just rely only on your immediate network as well. You can get opportunities from there, and then you have to begin to hustle. But yeah, realistically, being good with money is absolutely sexy, and knowing how much it costs to run you, sexy. I have this conversation with a lot of people that consumerism is what holds people back from taking risks in their career. Whether or not that's quitting your job and moving to London or going for the next opportunity, being good with money will allow you to go for that next career job, move overseas, quit your job, start a business. So yeah, I was very good at that. And I don't drive a Porsche, I drive a Corolla. Maybe in due time I will have that. But right now I was like, girl, you got to run cheap.
I think cheap is sexy.
Yeah.
Oh, like honestly, I am so here for that. Yeah, just it's such a stark reality when you realize how much you hold yourself back from the things that you use in your life to make you feel comfortable. I definitely had my own experience with that when I had a great and a guaranteed salary and I knew, yeah, it's okay to have this little splurge this month because I know the money's coming in next month. And then the little splurges are the thing that make you feel good. So you have them a little more often. And you start, I mean, I look back at that and go, gosh, why wasn't I better with my money back at that time? Because yeah, when you go out and do your own thing without having that financial literacy, without having a plan, without severely reducing what your life looks like. I think a lot of people think that I moved first to Tasmania and then to the Sunshine Coast because I was just like, see change, and then like, oh, look how amazing, like going regional. No, rent is cheap. Rent is a lot cheaper, not so much now, thanks to everybody migrating regional, but rent is a lot cheaper in those places. And that allows me to make smart decisions. And I sold so much of my stuff, not just my car, but my clothes and shoes and bags and stuff I didn't need that was hanging around. The amount of selling of things that I had accumulated and the cost management that I put on my life of how much does it actually, as you said, I love that term. How much does it cost to be me? Like that's the hard work that doesn't feel fun at the time, but it's incredibly empowering to then build back up and go, well, as things start to grow, as things start to get better, I can see how I can be really smart and make my money, make more money as it grows. But yes, I agree with you. You have to be prepared to be able to fund yourself. 6 months is amazing. I think a lot of people will need 18 18 months of knowing that your bills are paid in order to make sure that you make smart financial decisions that are right for your business through that process as well, that you take the right kind of risks through that period and you don't feel that awful feeling of scarcity, because I've been there. I know how terrifying it feels to go, where is this coming from? How am I going to do this? I am incredibly unsafe. And you don't tap into your most creative, most passionate, most powerful self when you're in that state. So I am so here for the sexiness of budgets and realities and being real, and agree with you that yeah, consumerism is built to hold us back in a lot of ways, and being able to fight through that and push back on some of that and go, no, 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 I'm actually worth more than that thing that I really want. That trip that I would love to do this year, go to summer in Europe and or do this, or winter in Europe for you because I know you're a cold girly. All of those things sound really fantastic, but like what sounds better in the long term? Can we forego some of that for a few years? I think it's a really powerful share, and I appreciate you sharing it.
No, I appreciate it. And I think that it's just realistically a lot of people to start a business. Then, if you ask, but hang on, how'd you fund it? They probably had money in the bank. They had a part time job. They had their previous job, then became a, employee, or not an employee, sorry, like a client, sorry, of what they had started in their new business. But that money first piece is the part that needs to be spoken about. And honestly, it sucks when you first start. The amount that you have to sacrifice is horrible. I was a well-paid corporate girly before. I was doing the dinners out on a Saturday night. I had the iconic orders coming to my house. I had the holidays when I wanted to see my friends. You don't do that. It gets to a Sunday, you do a walk with friends. You're like, oh, should we go and have a drink? And you're like, I have to go home. Honestly, for the first few months, I was like, oh my God, I miss a salary. I miss working in corporate, and I miss having that life that I had before. But I remember I was in the absolute thick of it last year and I just had never felt so overwhelmed. And I said to my mum, I am absolutely going through it, but I'm fucking living. I'm living there. I'm not thinking, what if? I am not thinking, is this something that I might do? I am doing it now. And I look back at the end of last year as to what I did last year on, Instagram, probably didn't do enough. I had one wedding. I went to one friend's birthday. There wasn't a lot on there, but I just started to build something. And I think that it's exactly the same. I did this on Instagram. I said a post saying last year was the most unsuccessful year of my career. And it was. On paper, on money, I earned a lot less. I probably learned probably half than what I was earning the year before. I wasn't out doing anywhere near as much as I had. And I completely overthought myself. But it's like growing. Like, as I said, my parents are macadamia farmers. When you're on a macadamia farm, it takes 10 years for that tree to really yield its product. So like macadamias are literally the OG if it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. But you can't just plant seeds and harvest them straight away. There's growing, and you have growing years and you have harvesting years. Last year was the growing year. I was in my house. I was wearing Crocs and leggings every day. I was barely wearing makeup. I was absolutely growing it. And that then I put myself out there and I just really realize, and I know a lot of people speak about this, but your brain will rather go to what it is comfortable and it knows, even if that's not the better opportunity, than go for the unknown that could be better for you. But you just have to then realize realistically, it is me who has gotten me through every single hurdle in the past. And instead of only then doing the manifestations and the affirmations, they are phenomenal, but you will grow the most amount of self-worth when you have evidence base, and that is by keeping true to your word and showing up and doing what you were saying you're going to. Like, now I'm at a point where I'm really enjoying LinkedIn, and I've been posting on there 5 days a week since probably August last year. And now I post and people engage and people message me. And I did one yesterday being like, oh, I'm back in Melbourne. Who wants a coffee? People message me. Let's get a coffee. Never met. That only happens, and you build that love and that self-worth and that confidence when you stay true to your word. So just the growing years when you're in it, but also when you know that you're absolutely in it, that's when you know that you are going to have a bigger breakthrough. One of my best friends last year said to me whenever I was having a breakdown, she said, I love when you have a breakdown because you're going to have a breakthrough. She said, you have a breakdown, you have a breakthrough. I do have a business coach. And last year I was absolutely rackling my brain. I couldn't work out the, 3 C's, now 4 C's framework. And I messaged him and I was like, Ryan, we're having a breakdown. Stay tuned. Give me 2 hours. We're going to have a breakthrough. And he's like, what is this woman talking about? Like, weirdest person ever. Anyway, within 2 hours, wrote the whole framework, sent it to him. He's like, where did this come from? I was like, I don't know. Just had a breakdown and a breakthrough came. So now whenever I have a breakdown, I'm like, wow, this is going to be a really good breakthrough.
Oh, Kim, I love the breakdown, breakthrough, reframe because that is, yeah, I've been there. I've had probably more breakdowns in the last 6 months, I think, of my journey as an entrepreneur and also, as somebody who's just building things, as somebody who has the most complex of dreams, that include a big role somewhere. I'd love to make an impact back in podcasting somewhere, running a big network or doing whatever. That'd be sick. I wanted the pod to blow up and help more people. I want to service as many businesses as I can in podcast strategy and make strategy better and podcasting in general. And that just like sheer scale of dreaming alone has just led to so many breakdowns. And I agree with you. And they can be breakthroughs on work or they can just be breakthroughs on self-confidence, which is very, self-confidence or self-belief, which, is a different thing altogether where you go, no, okay, I faced that demon. How do I feel about it now in reflection? So I'm here for a little breakdown, a little mentee B every now and then. Like,
You need to let yourself be Delulu. You know what I mean? It's the
Mhm.
same as, so I always say this. So Airbnb, they made what was called, I think it was called like the 12-star service kind of thing. So it was like, they were like, okay, what does, 1 star look like? What does 5 stars look like? What does 10 stars look like? And they just went bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The thing is, when I would always say this in brainstorms, whenever we were doing campaigns and content, I would say, throw the weirdest shit out, because we need to get to level 10 to then land at level 8. If we only go to level 6, we'll land at level 4. So be Delulu, because you need to unlock what those opportunities look like and then go, you know what? Yeah, maybe I'll do a pod one day. You know what? Maybe I'll have a book. Maybe I'll be on this. Maybe I'll have that. And so if you don't expand what those horizons can be, then you don't unlock those opportunities to get there. But as much as I'm all about vision boards, goals, everything like that, it only helps when you have a routine. It only helps when you have discipline. And it only helps when you grow your self confidence. And that comes from evidence of showing yourself that you are reliable. Because when you do that, you can unlock and take on bigger hurdles because you know that you will be the one to get yourself through there.
Absolutely. We need to see to believe. We need to grow ourselves. We need to believe in what we're capable of. And I love an anchoring process when it comes to goal setting. Classic, we tell people the middle price, the high price, so they go the middle price. I love
Yeah.
doing that for our dreams as well. It's a good approach. Kim, you have, of course, I expected this from you. We've had the pleasure of chatting before, offered so much valuable insight in this conversation, not just from talking about content strategy and the inadvertent advice that you've given to the lucky listener who gets to tune in and into this as well, which is fantastic. But opening up personal experience, personal journey at all sorts of phases of business, not just when we're like happily sitting on the end goal reflecting back, aka Taylor Swift, is such a gift to give. And it's so important that we keep leaning into each other's stories so we can find ourselves within there. And I'm just really grateful to you for doing such an incredible job of it. How can we support you in return to grow? What can we do for you?
Oh, you can come and find me everywhere that I am and join in with the conversation. So I'm on LinkedIn, Kim Elizabeth James. I don't go by the middle name. That's just because if you Google search Kim James, you will not find me. If you search Kim Elizabeth James, you'll only find me. So it's an SEO thing because I'm a marketing
Love that.
girly. You'll find me on LinkedIn, Kim Elizabeth James. You'll find me on Instagram and TikTok at the Career Girl Diaries. And you'll also find me on Instagram at tangerinetango.marketing. So that is where you can find me. Join on social, join in my email list as well for Tangerine Tango. It's definitely where I drop a whole lot of probably the things that you don't want potential trolls and like algorithms censorship to go into. I definitely go in a bit more in depth in my email list, which is an exciting place to be and grow with. And then, yeah, if this is also coming out soon, in March, if you're in Melbourne, I will be on stage at the Comeback Conference with the Digital Picnic. And I will be talking a lot of what I spoke about here, storytelling, the 4 Cs, and all of those beautiful things to business owners. So yeah, come and see me IRL there. I got to pick which suit I want to wear. But yeah, otherwise, like always just like drop me a line. I'm always welcome to have a catch up, have a coffee, whether it's IRL or in person. Like running a business is scary. And as much as I like to talk career and give that to people in their career, I'm like, if I'm a year ahead of someone else starting a business, holler out. I'm very much like, no bullshit. This is what it was actually like. Because if you know that, then you know how to get through it. You can have your breakdown and we'll have a breakthrough.
Absolutely. Of course, as a listener would come to expect from me, I'm going to make it real bloody easy for that. I'm going to put all the links in the show notes. So, whatever app you're listening on, you can have a look down and you'll find the links there to go straight through to all the things. And I just look forward to the next time we talk. I think we should do a part two one of these days, Kim, but it's been a pleasure to chat with you.
No, thank you for having me. Yeah, we'll have to do a part two on content in general, I reckon.
100%. Thanks, Kim.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Unemployed and Afraid, the podcast for small business builders with your host, me, Kim Curtin. If you love it, you can say thanks with a star rating and a review. And of course, join the community on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Find us at Unemployed and Afraid wherever you're hanging out, and I'll see you there.